here. Sorry, that's a little loud. There we go. Thank you guys for being out here, coming out. We're going to talk a little bit about safety, boating safety, water safety. At this time, I would like to invite up Mayor Tim Keller to say a few words. Thank you.
All right, well, we are out here on a beautiful spring summer day, and behind us, of course, we see our Rio Grande, a special place that defines in many ways New Mexico and, of course, Albuquerque and the bosque around it. So we want to talk about every year what we always remind folks about this, which is that even though this looks beautiful, it can be very dangerous. So we want to talk to you about some safety things you can do. Now, I do want to emphasize, though, it is also a wonderful thing we should enjoy. There are ways to safely recreate in the river and, of course, on the bosque. But especially this time of year, we want to be extra careful how we do that. And I know for my family and I, every year we actually canoe down the Rio Grande, but we got lots of life preservers and we check the conditions and so forth and make sure it works for us. And it's different for everyone, but I think as always, you know, every year there's a couple of like inflatable bath toys that people try and use. Those are very dangerous. They will pop with the sticks and et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to talk about open space rescue, talk about what we're doing on the APD side, but also the open space side and our partners with state parks. But as a reminder, the river is very high, so we actually had to move this press conference literally because where we were going to have it is now underwater. And so if you come out on this awesome observation deck that is right off Tingley Beach, you see why it's a bridge, because right now actually you cross water to walk on it. So it's a very fun time to be out here, but also want to make sure that everyone is safe and can enjoy this with their families throughout the rest of the year. So a couple of things to note. APD is going to talk about this further, but remember, we do have open space patrol at APD. We do have units that are doing the kinds of things that they've always done, whether it's working the fan boat or the hovercraft if it's running, but also patrolling. It's just a collateral program, which basically means it's part-time. And so our commander and deputy commander, they can all speak to how this works. We sent an announcement about it last week, but we are definitely providing those services. So I want to make sure everyone knows that we're still doing that. And of course, it's very seasonal, and now's the high season. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. Our open space team, as well as fire rescue, is going to continue their patrols. We're always looking for challenges that we may have, whether it's a safety issue or whether it's a potential fire hazard. And so all those patrols that we've done in the past are going to continue as well. Now, I also want to just express my gratitude for our departments working together on this each spring and each summer, and also for the state for helping out with our efforts to keep the bosque safe. Now, I think lastly, just a reminder, you know, please just wear a real life preserver if you're going to go in the river. That is the one obvious answer that will solve like 90% of the challenges we have in the bosque. Don't go in the river just because you know how to swim. It's very tricky in high water. And as I mentioned too, you can't rely on sort of pool toys as inflatable. You need a real life jacket as if you were in, you know, the Elephant Butte or something of that nature. That's how you want to treat it. So we're going to go into more of this in detail with lots of folks. So I'll hand it back over. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'm going to invite up Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation. He oversees the Open Space Division. That would be Dennis Vasquez.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for being out here this afternoon. Yeah, the City of Albuquerque Parks and Recreation Division, through the Open Space Division, manages about 16 miles of the river corridor here. And of course, we do this with many managing partners. We're fortunate to have this natural resource behind us and right in the center part of the city. It really brings the community together, I think. The Rio Grande provides many beneficial, it serves many beneficial purposes. In addition to drinking water and irrigation water, it also serves many very beneficial ecological services. The high water now is going to help regenerate cottonwoods through the bosque. Is going to bring out other vegetation as well. That's going to serve wildlife, including the birds and the corridor of birds that come through the flyway each year. So there are many beneficial ecological things to consider and to be appreciative of when the water is high like this. And the bosque is also of course, a great recreational destination. People from around the city and all over come to enjoy time here in our bosque. They enjoy the trails. People will hike and bike. They'll bird watch. They will enjoy nature. They'll also, take a variety of watercraft onto the river. So that's why we're here today. We'd like to talk about water safety on the Rio Grande, especially this time of year. Right now we're experiencing high levels of water in the river. As of this morning, the height or the speed of the river was over 4,000 cubic feet per second, and it's about 4,600 cubic feet per second. A year ago, for example, we were just at about 1,000 cubic feet per second. So the river is 4 times higher than it was at this time last year. And we expect these conditions to last for several weeks. We want everybody to be aware of that and to prepare for that. This section of the river hasn't been this high, like I said, in about 4 years. So if you're going to recreate on the river, and we hope you come down and enjoy the bosque and enjoy this time of year, we ask you to be prepared. We ask you to know what your capabilities are. If you're going to get on the river, know what your capabilities are, know what your limitations are. And we ask parents to watch young ones as where they're by the water. And let's also remind everybody that fire danger is still an issue, so a reminder that fires are not allowed in the bosque. That's something we don't want, obviously. So let's protect this special area, and we invite everybody to enjoy the beautiful bosque and the river, and but let's all be safe and watch out for each other. At this time, I'd like to introduce one of our managing partners from the New Mexico State Parks Division. Scott Chalmers is the boating safety officer for New Mexico State Parks.
Demo. I was hoping we had a good example there. Love it.
Good afternoon. I brought some safety items along to help me give my talk. My name is Scott Chalmers. I work for New Mexico State Parks in our statewide boating safety program. The Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department, State Parks Division, is grateful for the amazing partnerships that we have with the City of Albuquerque and our other state, local, federal, and tribal partners across the state. We, state park rangers, as well as sheriff's deputies and officers of the New Mexico State Police, enforce and uphold the provisions of the New Mexico Boat Act statewide. Many New Mexicans enjoy spending summer afternoons boating and paddling on our state's amazing lakes and rivers, but boating is not without its risks, especially if you're not wearing a life jacket. People who take chances, inexperienced boaters, and boaters who are not wearing their life jacket are involved in accidents throughout the year, sometimes with tragic, even deadly results. And so safety must be foremost on the mind of anyone who plans to spend time in and around the Rio Grande this spring. Over the past 12 months, 7 people have died in New Mexico while recreational boating. Of those, 5 people were paddlers. So this spring, people who plan to float the Rio Grande must be especially aware of the added dangers. The Rio Grande is running higher and faster than usual, more so than it has been in a very long time, because of an abundance of snowmelt, and this is bringing additional hazards into play this year. The State Parks Division of New Mexico and its partners want to remind you to carry the essentials for safety. So at a minimum, state law requires you to carry and wear a life jacket while engaged in boating on a river.
We have a volunteer for you, Scott.
Excellent. If you're willing, why don't you come on up and
Absolutely.
you can be our life jacket model. There you go. And you must also carry a paddle and a sound-producing device, such as a whistle, even when you're on a stand-up paddleboard, inner tube, air mattress, any of that type stuff. But back to the life jacket. Your life jacket must fit you properly. So it must be in good and serviceable condition as well, which means no rips or tears, no broken snaps, no broken buckles. The webbing shouldn't be pulling out where it's stitched in. A snug fit is a proper fit. So let's see if we can get there. Perfect. The life jacket is properly fastened. There are some adjustment points on the side. Excellent. Now to check for fit of the life jacket, please raise your hands over your head, and I'm going to pull on the shoulders of the life jacket. And the life jacket fits properly. If it were too large, if she were to go into the water, it would have popped off her head and it would have done her no good. So while you're here, why don't you grab the paddle, and there's a whistle attached to your life jacket so that if you do take an unplanned swim, the whistle will be right there with her. Lastly, New Mexico State Parks and our partners across the state would like to remind everyone and encourage them to sign up for a free boating safety course this spring before your first trip on the water. It's required by law for anybody who plans to operate a motorboat or sailboat in New Mexico to take and pass the boating safety course and receive your boater education card. Over the last 5 years, over 84% of boating deaths in New Mexico occurred on boats where the operator had never received any kind of boating safety instruction. So we really encourage and urge boaters to take our free classes. We offer them in person throughout the state. They're taught by experienced park rangers, and we also have online options people can take and study at their own pace. So some really good options to knock the rust off on your boating safety knowledge as we come off a series of less than favorable years for boating in our state. Become an educated, more knowledgeable boater and wear your life jacket. It's your best chance to ensure that you, your friends, and your family stay safe on board your boat this year and have fun while doing it. Thank you. And thank you.
With that. Happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you both. At this time, I'll invite up Albuquerque Fire Rescue to say a few words. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Clint Anderson. I'm the Battalion Chief over Special Operations at Albuquerque Fire Rescue. I'm going to give a few pointers out to everybody for this river recreation season that we're coming into. Pardon me. As we're coming up on Memorial Day here, we know that as it gets warmer, everybody's going to want to come out to the water and enjoy themselves. But understanding that just as the gentleman before me and Mr. Mayor had already said, the water levels are higher and everything is much more turbulent. The water's flowing faster around here. There are plenty of invisible hazards that normally we'd see at low water level that are just barely covered with water right now. Things that can snag you, stuff that we refer to as strainers, things that could snag someone in their legs or easily get their watercraft a hole punctured in it, something like that. So the message here today that I'm going to kind of give out is mainly to just the same as we do for fire safety awareness. We want to give the information to folks because we're able to cover and to keep an eye on areas up and around the Bosque, but because it's so expansive between the Open Space Patrol and Albuquerque Fire Rescue, we can't manage to watch all of it. So you're on your own recognizance for a big part of it to be aware of how to keep you and your family the safest during these warmer seasons when we're out playing in the water. First off, like this gentleman mentioned, wearing a life jacket, one that fits, doesn't help you at all if it slips right off. Make sure to come with shoes that aren't going to slip and slide all over the place, something that might come off in the mud. Understanding that you need to keep your very close eye on your kids, whether they're on the watercraft with you or at the shore's edge, that these waters, once again, they're moving so fast that oftentimes they can sweep someone away just by, in an instant that you're looking away. So keeping them, I want to say at arm's length, and always keeping your head on a swivel, looking around, making sure that none of these hazards are going to get in your way. As far as watercraft goes, we want to emphasize that you want to make sure that you have a worthy watercraft. So this would be one that could withstand potential punctures from a lot of these strainers, these underlying shrubs and trees and whatnot just beneath the water that could puncture the craft. If you have something that's durable enough, it's going to withstand that and keep you from being stuck, I would say high and dry, but low and wet in the river, putting yourself in harm's way. That being said, in addition to that, having watercraft that are relatively steerable is also a very good idea. Something that you can anticipate what sort of obstacle or something you need to negotiate up ahead of you, and then you can move well in advance of that coming up to you so that you don't get stuck in it. Be aware of jetties and as well as eddies. These are different spots in the water where you might see it swirling up ahead. That's going to be an indication of some more turbulent water. It's going to be something that's going to be hard for anybody to negotiate. And just like we said, to re-emphasize the life jacket, I don't care how good of a swimmer you think you are, this is a whole different environment. When you go out, you want to make sure that you let someone who's not part of your trip know your plans, know when you expect to be exiting the river, and even the locations. You could let them know, I'm going to be exiting over off of Central Avenue somewhere around 3 p.m. This way they know that in the absence of getting contact from you after that they might want to go ahead and start looking for you or activate the right system to come after you. You want to make sure that you have your communication devices charged up and also in a waterproof case. So at a minimum, I would even think inside of a Ziploc bag or something to try to keep it from getting soaked, and then you're not able to use it. Another big important part of this is knowing your relative locations along the river as it moves from north to south through the city, starting out at the edge of Bernalillo County and continuing on down to Valencia. We have 4 different dams to be aware of. Once you know those locations along the river, as well as some of the overpasses, you're able to give the 911 dispatcher when and if you have to call for either yourself or someone else you see in distress, you can give them your orientation. This river makes it real simple for us. It runs from north to south, so you can let them know that you're either south or north of one of these landmarks. That's definitely helpful. So the other thing to be aware of is hypothermia. Once again, as these guys mentioned, this is snowmelt water. So because of the significant amount of snowmelt, it's still pretty chilly. So despite the warm weathers outside, if you're exposing yourself enough to the cold water, your mean body temperature can decrease. So there's the potential for hypothermia. So you want to be reading up and looking up for signs and symptoms of that as well, just to stay ahead of it. I think that about covers it for Albuquerque Fire Rescue. I want to let you guys know that we've already begun and finished our recurrent training, as well as certifying some new members with regard to our Swiftwater Rescue Team, and they typically will combine with Albuquerque Police Department and their Open Space Division when we mobilize to go out to effect some of these water rescues. But like I say, you're your own best advocate with regard to these things, just because of the longer, what we call a reflex. It still takes time to get out there and to get out and save folks. We're more than willing. But if you guys can keep these other things in mind, that'll be the best way to enjoy yourself and be safe. Thank you all very much.
Alrighty, at this time I'll open it up for Q&A. Before you ask, if you could just state your name and which agency you're with before asking, I'll bring up the proper person to answer for you. Go ahead, Ryan.
Ryan Law from KOB4. You mentioned the recent deaths in 6 months. Did you say anything about where those were, or you said they're paddlers? Does that mean kayaking, stand-up, canoe? I don't know. Any other information about the people who died?
Scott, you
So there have been 7 boating fatalities in New Mexico over the last 12 months. Of those, all but 2 were paddlers or on some type of paddlecraft or inflatable device, so non-motorized boaters. And again, all but 1 or 2 of those fatalities were people who were not wearing their life jackets. And so those deaths have occurred statewide. The most recent one happened earlier this weekend in southern Taos County on the Rio Grande. But that number encompasses river boating, flatwater lake boating, all that type of stuff. So that's our running state total for the last 12 months.
Thank you. Next.
Carla with TRQD. Have
So we can speak to that.
Go ahead.
Sounds like the
Yeah, the mics. The mics are.
I knew
no
that.
worries.
The predominance there, again, I want to say just one or two happened north of us up in the county. We had one response that we were called out to, but the victim had already taken themselves up out of the water. So we got our guys stood up and we were able to sit back down, thankfully.
You mentioned training, real quick.
Yes, sir.
I know last year you guys had a big joint effort training up near Algodones, and that was AFR, Burnco, you had a bunch of different agencies. Is that happening again this year, or is that just a one-time thing?
Yes, sir, is happening again, already did happen. A little less than a month ago, we were able to get that recurrent training done. But like I say, we also bring in some guys that haven't had that training yet. They go through a pretty rigorous water testing within just a local swimming pool. Then they get to go out and, I mean, I say have fun, but they get to put their skills to the test and learn and go through the ropes. So they've already been through that recurrent training and they're all ready to go.
Brianna, go ahead.
Brianna with KOAT. I'm just curious with the city. I know this is a part-time program when it comes to overseeing kind of the river and making sure everyone's safe, but with everything that's happened recently, are we going to see more patrols in the near future?
I'll let APD answer that.
Hello, Mike Meisinger, Deputy Commander with APD. We are stepping up routine patrols because, as you mentioned, yes, our search and rescue is a collateral program. We do have 5 PSAs that are permanently assigned to the open spaces and patrolling around, so you will see them around 7 days a week looking for any of the things that we talked about today directly related to river safety as well as other open space things. And then we are increasing, obviously on the weekends is when we see the most people out on the water. So we are bringing in the collateral officers, and some regular field officers are joining them just to add some extra numbers so that we can get out to make sure that everyone is operating safely. You will see the airboat on the water, and it's important for me to kind of just reiterate the point that while we hope to catch someone before they get in the water if they're making a mistake and not doing or following the advice that was given today, we really encourage people to not wait for us to tell them to fix those issues, but to just take care of it right away. Because when you're on the water and you have a problem, whether us or any of our partners with fire department or any of the other agencies you may encounter, if you have a problem on the river, that's not the time to try and correct the issue. It's a little late then. But I also want to just reiterate the point, we are getting the warmer weather, and we are seeing a lot more people coming out and really enjoying themselves, and just reminding everyone that, yeah, come out, have picnics and enjoy it, but there are no fires allowed in the bosque. So there are individuals that will come out and they'll try and barbecue and set up potential fire hazards. So even though there is a lot of water, remember this is a very fragile ecosystem, and one spark could cause tragedy. So I just wanted to reiterate that point before we wrap this up.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming out. We appreciate it. That concludes this.